Welcome into the On3 Studios here in Nashville, Tennessee. Today's Sunday, May 26th, and we are here for another loaded episode of the Inside Scoop. I know it's a holiday weekend, but guess what? We are still here to talk recruiting. Today's show is brought to you by Inhale Water, super oxygenated water. Get hydrated with Inhale. All right, some major developments this weekend in Knoxville, so we're going to go there because the Volunteers held their annual 865 Live weekend. Big name recruits were all over Knoxville. We're going to break it down with Austin Price. Also, we're going to talk Florida State recruiting. The Noles, they're about to get hot. Only 4 commitments yet, but do not worry. We're going to talk recruiting with War Chant insider Michael Langston. All right, some more big news. Yesterday, right here on this channel, top 100 recruit, Mark Zachary, he committed on our channel to Notre Dame. Now, he's the number 10 rated corner in the country, the 89th best player overall, and he committed right here on the On3 Recruits channel. It was a big one for us because Zachary chose Notre Dame over Michigan, Florida, and Cincinnati. There's another reason it was a big moment, because it was our first live commitment that chose Notre Dame, which reminds me, let's take a live look at the official On3 Recruits commitment tracker. And you guys are going to get to see me update this thing in real time. Here it is. If you missed it from the last show, I do some graphics on the side, and I whip this one up real quick. So let's officially add a 1 for Notre Dame. There you go. Notre Dame is on the board. They are on the board, and we got another live commitment coming up this week. On Wednesday, Louisiana 4-star running back James Simon, the number 9 running back in America, he's going to commit with us during the On3 Elite Series. It's a big event that we're holding for some of the top 50 prospects in America. They're all going to be here, but James Simon wants to sit down with us live on this channel, live from the rooftop of the W Hotel in downtown Nashville. James Simon will announce his decision. It's going to be a big one. Actually, make sure you guys are subscribed. You're not going to want to miss that. All right. Speaking of Notre Dame, the Irish are sitting at number 5 overall after the commitment of Mark Zachary. What an offseason they've had on the recruiting trail. Notre Dame has by far the most commitments of any team in the top 25. Now, this is a strong start for Marcus Freeman and the Irish. They have 22 total commitments. I mean, look at this. Ohio State has 12 commitments. LSU has 11 commitments. USC has 12. Clemson has 11. Then you have Notre Dame, like I said, with 22. Now, here's a look at the top of their commitment list. It is loaded. Of course, it's headlined by quarterback Deuce Knight, the 6'4.5", 200-pound quarterback, number 7 overall at his position. Then you got Ivan Taylor at safety, number 5 safety in the country, Will Black, the industry's number 7 ranked offensive tackle, but Will Black is On3's number 1 offensive tackle in America. He's 6'7", 280. Then you got Mark Zachary right there, Christopher Burgess. He's the number 100 prospect overall. So all at the top of this commit list, the top 5 commits for Notre Dame are all inside the top 100 already. Whew. Now, like I said, these are the names at the top of the list, but there's other big names. You got Dallas Golden committed, Owen Strebig, James Flanagan. Really solid class. Now, with 22 commitments, there's not a whole lot that's needed, but there is room for a couple more. And I think I'll give you 2 players to watch, all right? One's on offense, one's on defense. Let's start on offense. Wide receiver Derek Meadows, 6'5", 185. He's from Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. And Meadows is just what Notre Dame needs to round out that offensive class. Big-bodied wide receiver with speed and great hands. Notre Dame's going to get him in on an official visit June 14, but in that month, so will Bama, Michigan, Georgia, and LSU. A lot of competition, but I do like where Notre Dame sits right now heading into visit season. All right, flip over to the defensive side of the ball. I would take a look at Jadon Blair, the number 15 ranked safety in America. He's 6'4", 180, rangy defensive back from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, number 153 overall. Now, recently, Blair came out and told our Chad Simmons that he's entering the final stretch of his recruitment. He's going to make a decision on July 5. But before then, he's going to take June official visits. Penn State, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, South Carolina, those are the main contenders. They'll all get visits. It's a crucial stretch right now, heading into summer. To me, Jadon Blair's recruitment feels like a Michigan-Notre Dame battle. We'll see if those two duke it out down the stretch. That would put Notre Dame, if they could land those 2, right? Derek Meadows, Jadon Blair, that puts Notre Dame at 24. Still room for a couple more. So Who do you, Notre Dame fans, talk to me. Who do you want to see added to this commitment list? Tap in, comment section below. Notre Dame fans, who is your most important uncommitted target right now? Let me know in the comments section below. All right, let's get on with the show. We'll talk some FSU recruiting next. It's time to talk Florida State recruiting. The Noles, they're currently sitting at number 12 in the On3 team rankings. FSU only has 4 commitments right now heading into the summer. But that is nothing to be worried about because Mike Norvell and his staff are gearing up for a very busy summer. In this video, I got War Chant recruiting insider Michael Langston on to break down the Noles' top targets. But first, FSU fans, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the greatest recruiting channel on YouTube. We just hit 50K, so let's keep this thing rolling. Hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on Michael Langston from War Chant. Now, Mike, we're going to hit on a few of these top targets for the Noles as we get into summer. But first, quarterback commitment. Tramel Jones out of Jacksonville. He's been on the commit list for 13 months now, over a year. But he's been taking visits to the Florida Gators. What's your level of concern over Jones flipping his commitment, and are the Gators the biggest threat here?
At this point, I'm not heavily concerned. I think if we went by there a little while back, probably a few weeks ago, and he said the only visit he has officially visit is FSU. Now I'm still monitoring certainly because Florida certainly made an impact, and Tramel's even said that they're coming after him hard. So that's one that I'm still going to monitor. But he's coming for that FSU big June 21st weekend where they have 23 official visitors. That's probably the most I've ever heard at FSU since I've been covering Florida State. So I think there's going to be a lot of top targets there. He's been the most effective guy recruiting other players. That doesn't guarantee anything. That doesn't guarantee that he's going to sign. But I feel pretty good that he's going to sign with FSU. I think everything sits good. Now FSU's positioned himself. If something did happen, that they go after somebody like a 4-star quarterback, Carter Smith, who I've mentioned many times, committed to Michigan, but he's a guy that they've had a strong relationship with for a while. But if it comes to that, but I think they've made it clear Tramel's their guy, and it seemed to be after that NFL draft. A lot of FSU had a really good day or past few days for the draft, and it really seemed to shift it a little where Tramel was a lot more solid the way he talked. Now you still got to work it and finish it, but I think overall, I think they're still in a good spot.
Yeah. All right. Now let's get into some guys that Florida State is trending for. And if you're an FSU fan, recruiting's great, but you want to know how they're doing in the trenches. So let's start with defensive lineman Myron Charles, who the Noles are trending for at 90%. He's the number 9 ranked defensive lineman in America. Now, he's got official visits to Florida, USC, Miami, and FSU in June. I know Texas also trying to get in there. Do you agree with the recruiting prediction machine that Florida State's trending at about 90%?
I think that's fair. What they have in there, I think FSU feels really good based on the intel I get that they feel good where they stand. Odell Higgins has done a really good job with this recruitment, both recruiting Myron as a person and just player, and their development at that position certainly doesn't hurt their chances. Myron talks a lot about the amount of guys that what Odell does, and then I think their product on the field really help surge them up to the position they're in. But I think relationships really set the tone. But I think, going into those official visits, I think FSU's in a pretty solid spot. I think Ohio State's another one that is possibly trying to get an official visit. So there's other factors that he could take other visits, but I think the two teams, FSU and Florida, have been the two teams that I've heard consistently throughout the whole process. But I think FSU should feel good about where they sit going into those officials.
Yeah, that's a big piece to this class if they can add a Myron Charles to the list. Let's move to the offensive side of the ball. Talk Josh Petty. Big time offense. Well, he's listed as an interior offensive lineman. I know some teams are recruiting him as an offensive tackle as well. He's the number 2 ranked interior offensive lineman in America, trending to FSU at 70% out of the state of Georgia. I know Tennessee's heavily involved in this one, but do you think this is a recruitment that FSU could close out this summer?
Oh, they definitely could. They already made a big splash when he came in the spring, more so than even I thought until after the visit. Then communication from him and FSU was more him to FSU after that visit, where he was just so enamored by everything he saw, the way they run block, the way they fit his style of play, the way just the comfort level he had with Atkins, and we've seen that a lot where Atkins hooks into you with his relationships, and it's a different vibe than a lot of other places, and that's kind of part of why they surge to where they are, and then you have an official visit coming up. I think he's also on that June 21st visit weekend, so I think he's certainly a guy that they can close with. Obviously, there's still a lot of different teams involved, and you already mentioned a few of them, but I think they're trending in the right direction there, and that will be a massive haul because I can't
Hmm.
remember. Maybe Josh can. I can't remember the last time they got like a maybe Landon Dickerson that they got a 5-star offensive lineman. So
Think, yeah.
they haven't had a lot of them. So getting him in the fold, I think, kind of solidifies their class. They already have one 5-star in Solomon, so I think certainly adding him would just really take this offensive line class to another level.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's talk about a potential flip target on this list. You got defensive lineman Jalen Wiggins. He's been committed to UF, but we know he's from Rickards High School right there in Tallahassee. Big old frame at 6'5", 285, big number 7 defensive lineman in America. Now, is he just teasing FSU here with all these visits, or do you think that they have a legit shot to flip him?
Yeah, it's a very intriguing recruitment because when it first started, Jalen kind of wanted to get away from school, and that didn't
Mm-hmm.
that didn't necessarily equal good news for Florida. It's just he could go somewhere outside of the state of Florida. It's not out of the question. Somewhere like Southern Cal or something. I could see that, or just somewhere that's away. So that was kind of the early part. And so what FSU has done is they've really worked on the personal relationships. They've gotten people that have played in Tallahassee. Certainly doesn't hurt when you have a guy like Ernie Sims on your staff, your support staff. He's a local kid. He's been through what Jalen's going through. So I think that's certainly helped FSU make a little surge of movement, because it's not just the development, because people forget, like, FSU recruited this kid probably longer than anybody early. I mean, he had been camping at FSU since he was in the ninth grade, so he knows Coach JP a lot, the defensive end coach. He's very he knows what they do with development with Jared Verse and the defensive ends, and the product is there. But I think the personal connection to FSU is what's kind of shifted it, where I feel like FSU is a major threat to Florida. I do think he's still going to go through the process. I do
Mm-hmm.
think he feels comfortable with Florida, but I think it's something where the scheduling setting up nice for FSU. He's visiting that June 21st weekend. He's going to be around a lot of different guys, going to be around commits, going to be around guys that are highly considering FSU. So if they can nail it on that official visit, yeah, it definitely can become reality. So they're definitely a threat, but there's still stuff to do to finish it off. But I do think they're trending, and
Mm-hmm.
certainly trending in a good direction based on where they were if you compare it like maybe 4 months ago.
Yeah. All right. Let's move to linebacker recruiting. We'll go to the top of that linebacker board where you see Tavian Wallace, 6'1", 197, the number 3 ranked linebacker in America. Now he's going to take his official visits, and then he's going to make a decision on July 15th. He has set a date. Where do you think FSU stands as, I know it's only about 8-9 weeks away, but it's going to go really fast once June comes. So where do you think FSU stands heading into the summer?
Yeah, that's another one that's a major one, because we've seen a lot of a boost in basically their linebacker recruiting. They already have 4-star Ethan Pritchard. There's several other guys along with Tavion that they're highly involved with, that they feel like they have a legit shot with. And then Tavion, I think through the process he's always said, Florida State's the leader. I will say that Florida has made a nice push. That's a school that has made up some ground, I think, with FSU. But I always go back to these things, because a lot of times when these kids do these officials, they're like, they could say this school's leading the whole way, and then they get to the officials and they're like, well, I'm coming in it with an open mind, and everyone's even. So I think that's kind of where he's kind of at, but I do like where FSU sits. I always go back to what place are you going to the most? What place has been the most consistent with you? And that's been FSU. So I do think they're in the best spot. But I do think Florida's a threat. But I think they can certainly finish this off, and that would be a major jolt, to their linebacker
Mm-hmm.
recruiting, because it really solidifies and maybe speeds up them finishing off the class. Would say, a guy like Gavin Nix or a guy like Ty Jackson in the class. Overall, it really picks up your linebacker recruiting. And I'll say the same name I said earlier in Ernie Sims. I think he is a big boost to having him in that room when you get official visits or you're talking over the phone. That guy has been really pivotal for FSU to add some more juice, so to speak, with that linebacker recruiting room.
All right, Mike, I got one more name I want to hit on, and that's one of the top wide receivers in the state of Florida. We're talking wide receiver Vernell Brown III. Now, his recruitment has kind of had a couple phases. There was a time where Florida was the perceived leader. He's a legacy recruit there. Florida State has been heavily involved. He's insinuated that maybe the Knowles lead. Miami's involved. Ohio State's involved. Vernell Brown, though, his recruitment's only heating up as we get towards summer. What do you think goes on here?
Yeah, that's a fun one, isn't it? Yeah, that's a real fun one to watch because there's connections to Florida because his dad played there.
Sure.
There's connections to Ohio State because heck, it's Ohio State. Look what they do at receiver every year, every single year. Brian Hartline is just killing it with production. And then FSU, it's been the one that's consistent. They've been on him so long, and he sees what FSU's offense looked like. And I think the exciting part for him is that he loves the way the multiple ways that FSU uses their receivers and rushers or pass catchers, but he also loves just how he feels around this team when he's around this team and he's around the players and especially the staff and Norvell. There's a genuine juice and excitement of that program. So I still feel, it's just my gut feeling, I still feel FSU and Ohio State are the teams that I hear the most buzz around. I hear some with Florida, and that's there because he's a legacy. But I hear a lot around FSU and Ohio State, and certainly all three are going to get him on official visits. So it's going to probably be a roller coaster of just emotions of changes. But I think a lot of what connects him to FSU is one, their product, and two, the feeling when you're on there. And every time I talk to Vernell, he tells me FSU is one of the most consistent teams. Of their pitch is the same, and their message is the same, and how they are is the same. And that's what recruits are looking for: is stability, connection, and then also consistency. And I think FSU has done a really good job with that, of nailing that. And then two, just their receivers in general. After watching what Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson did, kids are now excited, I think, in another level that I've seen at that wide receiver position, even though there's a lot of guys. We did a 3 targets to watch at receiver, and Vernell was definitely one of them. So there's a lot of excitement, but they're kind of almost like the new kids on the block of showing what the wide receiver room can be with this offense.
Yeah, a lot of twists and turns. FSU fans, tap in. How we feeling? 4 commitments, but room for a lot more, and FSU recruiting is about to heat up. Comment section below. Who's your top target? Some of the guys we mentioned, maybe some others that we didn't mention. Let me know. Yep. Comment section below. This weekend, there was over 20 elite prospects in Knoxville for Tennessee's 865 live event, including the #1 offensive tackle in America, David Sanders, along with wide receiver Jamie French, and they were there to hang out with Tennessee quarterback commit George McIntyre. I got Tennessee insider Austin Price on this video. We're going to go behind the scenes of Tennessee's big recruiting weekend. But first, Tennessee fans, do me a favor, hit subscribe to the best recruiting channel on YouTube, the On3 Recruits channel. Appreciate it. All right, let's bring on Austin Price from VolQuest. Now, we got to start with 5-star offensive tackle David Sanders. He's back, another visit. He's going to take his official visits this summer. We know that. And with that being said, I kind of feel like we've hit the halfway mark of David Sanders' recruitment. And if this was halftime of his recruitment, where do you think Tennessee stands heading into the locker room?
Well, I don't mind the halftime analogy. I would say it's that play that has a really long first act, and then the second act isn't going to be nearly as long. Because I think the decision's coming in July. So, I mean, to me, the first act has been several months of unofficial visits. And so he's back to Tennessee over the weekend for a third time since the start of April unofficially. And, of course, we'll be back here in a number of other spots for official visits in the month of June. But, David Sanders, as Chad and Steve both pointed out in their kind of prediction stuff of some top uncommitted guys, Tennessee has a lot of momentum with David Sanders. Not done. He's not in the barn yet, but at the same time, they are the team that's trending well for him. He connects really well with Glenn Ellerbe. He connects really well with George McIntyre. And, it feels like Tennessee right now is in a good spot. Again, got to survive the official visits to Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, and all those other schools. But Tennessee's done a really nice job with David Sanders.
All right, we'll stick with that theme. So if David Sanders was the lead of this play, then Jamie French is his supporting actor. And Jamie French, the 5-star wide receiver out of Jacksonville, was back in town. And this is significant, Austin, because recently he told our Chad Simmons that Texas, LSU, and Miami stood out. Now, we know that Jamie French kind of has a reaction every time he takes a visit. So do you think that Tennessee fans coming out of this visit, you talked to him, do you think Tennessee fans should be concerned about where they stand with French, or are they sitting in a good spot?
Well, I mean, I think Texas is clearly the team to beat. Again, he's going to take all his official visits in June and, then start working towards things. I mean, do I think Tennessee could potentially flip the momentum here? Yeah, sure. But again, right now, I still think Texas has the most momentum with him. And I think he likes all these visits because he is genuinely a super good kid. He's always, got a big smile on his face. He's super happy, super nice. I told him and joked with him, on Saturday, I'm like, man, we got to make you a little meaner. Like, you're always just like grinning from ear to ear. Like, most of these kids are like, stone faced, mean mugging. Right. He's the exact opposite, the most friendly kid you'll come in contact with, and which says a lot about him. But I think that's why he likes all these visits and kind of rides the momentum of visits. But again, I think Texas is still kind of that team to beat, but I think Tennessee's in it. Just think that they'll have to have a really strong official visit in June.
All right, those were the two big headlining names, but what other bits of intel do you have from the 865 Live event in Knoxville?
Well, Tennessee leads for Onis Canabani, the defensive back out of the state of South Carolina, originally from Canada. The Vols, he said that Tennessee leads there. I think Tennessee's positioned themselves well with Nick Moore, the 4-star offensive lineman from Jefferson County, which is just outside of Knoxville. Tennessee was slow to offer, but once they finally did, it feels like he's really connected well with Glenn Ellerbe. He and David Sanders have similar personalities. They did a lot of hanging out over the weekend, and he'll take some visits coming up. But again, I still think Tennessee has positioned themselves well there since they've offered. They've showed him how much they truly want him now, and I think that's talking to him big time. And then Tennessee in it with guys like Jared Smith, again from Thompson. He talked openly with Matt Ray about Tennessee's way more in this than people realize. If he was going to go out of state, and it probably won't, but who knows? You're right. I mean, it's why you go through the process. Who thought Jordan Ross would go out of state, and yet he did. So, if you're Tennessee, you just keep swinging at some of these players. Running back is a big deal, and Shakai Mills-Knight was in over the weekend. That's a Tennessee-Miami battle, I think. I think those are the top two for him. And, again, big weekend for Tennessee as far as visitors. And now they'll kind of get ready for a couple of huge weekends near the end of June. And the 14th and the 21st, we're talking like about 50 total kids rolling in here.
Yeah. Now, before I let you go, I was following I do follow George McIntyre on X, I should say. And all weekend, he was giving live updates, a lot of pictures from that 865 Live event. Who was George McIntyre working on the most over the weekend?
Well, he was working on, Jamie French and David Sanders. Those are the two that he was really focused on. He went around a lot with Jamie French, and because I think he and David just genuinely talk quite a bit. And those are the ones he's working on. He'll be working on guys at the On 3 Elite Series event coming up this week. Travis Smith, Caleb Cunningham, Jamie French will be there. David Sanders will be there. All those players, he'll be whispering in their ear, trying to make sure that they get excited to come to Knoxville for their official visit in June.
Yeah, he's a great asset to have for the Tennessee coaching staff. Hey, the coaching staff works hard, but this peer-to-peer recruiting can really pay off on the recruiting trail. We'll just have to see what happens. And George McIntyre will be in Nashville for the Elite event here at On 3. You'll be there. I'll be there. It's going to be a great time. We're going to talk to all these guys again, so I can't wait for that. Now, before we let you go, though, Tennessee fans, tap in with me. Let me know, how do you guys feel about the 865 Live event? David Sanders, Jamie French. Tennessee made a move with some of these guys heading into the summer. Let me know. Comment section below how we're feeling. Well, you've made it to the end of today's video, but there's hundreds more videos on the On3 Recruits channel for you to check out. And also, while you're here, hit subscribe.